notice of tonight's meeting in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act has been provided by the following methods: distribution of notice to the record, posting of notice to the Nancy Scott Elementary School, Leonia Middle School, the High School Community Bulletin Board, Public Library, Leonia Borough Hall, and the school district's website. If everyone could please turn off their cell phones and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everyone could please remain standing for a moment of silence for the victims of 9/11. Thank you. Be seated. Okay. Let's moving with the roll call, please.
Mrs. Albanese?
Present.
Mr. Cassano?
Present.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Present.
Mrs. Sandy Klein? Mr. Phelan?
Present.
Mr. Rodden?
Present.
Dr. Schuler?
Present.
Mrs. Thompson?
Present.
Mr. Weimer?
Present.
Mrs. Wells?
Present.
Dr. Bertolini?
Present.
Myself? Ms. Terrell? Here. And our secretary, Mr. Vick?
Present.
And our student liaisons are not here.
Not here. I expect the police attendants for sure.
Okay, very good.
All right. We'll move right along to public comments, concerns, questions, praise on agenda items. Oh, wait. Back up a second. Here they go. All right. Wait. Hang on. We're gonna reverse. Come on in.
That's right, fine. Just
We're gonna. This is swearing.
Yes.
Okay. So if they want to stay standing.
Chris, stay in the middle.
You guys want to stay in the middle? We're gonna swear you guys in.
If you're late, stand up. Whoa. That's where you in now.
All right. So, welcome. We're happy to come right in and get right into it. Okay. So, Dennis is Bagenoff, thank you. This is from Morella.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. Okay, please raise your right hand and say your name. I
Dennis Bagenoff, Chris Morales.
do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
All right. So now we will move into public. Mary, is there a second? Tina, all in favor? Any opposed? Great. All right, the public portion of the meeting will now be open. Anyone, a member of the public wish to speak, you have 2 minutes to speak. Please just state your name and address for the record. On agenda items only, please. I'm Schultz.
Hi. I'm Carol Schultz, 313 Westview Avenue. I would just like to, this goes with the safety committee, and I would just like to ask, and permission to ask and wonder if there is something already out there, of a list of all the security things that you guys have put together in the last year, and to make it public to the citizens of Leonia so that they know all the work that you've put in and what has been done. And because I think they're amazing. I think the app that you guys have put together and all the security things that have been done should be made more public so that people realize the work that has gone into it and how you've made a really good effort to make our schools a safe and great place to be. That's my recommendation.
Any other members of the public?
One time.
Yep.
May I come?
You. Nice to see you again.
Brief. Arthur there, 125 Reldies. I'll start with the praise. I'm glad to see that you all figured out settled the teacher's contract in advance. That was excellent. Usually it comes to, I think teachers basically underpaid. One thing that I think we should spend more money on, less money on some of the other projects that we've had. I'm really pleased to see that worked out. So we'll handle that and take care of that. The next question I have is two questions. One is, what is on the agenda? You've got approve employment contract of building and ground supervisor. That's Kevin. What is he getting paid right now? Is that
We're pulling that tonight.
What's that?
We're pulling that off the item.
You're pulling it off the item tonight. Okay. I'll ask later on. I'll pull it back on. And then the next thing is you have a paid volunteer soccer coach. How do you become a paid volunteer, and how do you qualify the people?
It's a soccer coach from Ridgewood that is good friends with, or actually is a teacher of our soccer coach. He's a Golden coach. We don't have a stipend position for Golden coach. He's willing to do the entire season for a small fee of $500. Which is paid for out of soccer
How much is it?
$500.
Okay.
For the year, which is
how to pay that?
The soccer fundraising account, not out of school money.
Okay. Well, I'm more concerned with how a volunteer gets qualified. Normally, there's certain qualifications. You have to have certain degrees, or
Yeah, certainly. He meets all those requirements.
So he meets all.
He was interviewed by our athletic director, Mr. Prada, and it's a small stipend for such a daily event.
That's fine.
But again, not paid for our school funds.
Okay. You're going to do what? That's what I just want. I don't know how it worked. What the mechanism was to screen them, hire them, qualify them, and then pay them since they're volunteering.
Yep.
They apply for jobs. Thank you.
Mr. Mark? Yeah, no problem. Any other member of the public wish to speak? All right, seeing nobody, move to close the public portion of the meeting. Moved by Mr. Sano, second. Lisa? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Great. All right, we'll move on to board comments. Any member of the board have any? We'll start with Mr. Sano. I saw his hand first.
The other question I had, in addition to what Mr. Zayat raised, is we did a background check, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, just like a teacher.
Exactly.
Or anyone else who comes in contact.
Even a coach, an outside coach.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
We'll go right down the line. Mr. Dempsey.
I've talked about this before in public and in one of the committees, and I think everyone seems to agree. But I'd like to make a motion that we make all of our email addresses public for transparency reasons. And in just this week alone, we've received a lot of emails to our personal emails, which falls outside of the Oprah. That's something we can get done. And there was one generic, I think, the OE.
I think it goes to Bryce, and he's supposed to send it off to each member.
That's what's happening. It's that if I get an email that it's asked to be spread to the board, of course I'll do so. I'll send it to Ed, and he'll send it to you, because I can't send to multiple people at one time, because I can't send to 5 people, because I'm technically a form. But if I ever got an email where they asked to, actually today I did, I sent to Ed to have it requested to be forwarded to everybody.
Is there a reason, like most school districts have each member's email listed there?
I actually thought
I've been getting a lot from my personal account. A few of us did this week, from at least 2 people. I think it needs to be fixed.
Can we move this to new business? Because I would like to endorse it, but if we start doing board comments during that business, can we move it to new business? And I would like to discuss it.
Can I address Carol Children?
Yeah.
So can you use the microphone because it's yes. Thank you. So to address your comment about the list of security measures we've taken this far, apparently, we have done quite a bit so far, and I like that you've requested a list. But some of the security measures we've taken, maybe we want to keep a little bit on the confidential side, so we wouldn't want to produce a whole list of things. But if you'd like to see a shorter list, an abbreviated list of what we can reveal, what would you think would be the best method for us to publish this? I'm curious, like, who do you think we want to reach? Who would that be? Like,
I think any of the community to know the safety issues that you have been dealing with.
but like through the listserv, through
Yeah, through the listserv, through email, through there's the community email that they send, whatever.
Okay. Okay.
The town blast. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Wait, I have a point of order. So if somebody wants to be moved to new business, do we have to agree to that?
So,
Point of order, I think, what we're asking.
so a couple things. One, if you want to make a motion right now, it's got to be seconded. But if it's old business or new business, technically on your agenda, you should do it during those sections, right? Does that mean that you can't ever make a motion, have it seconded, and have discussion and vote on it? No. But if there was a motion and a second that you were discussing, and you want to table it to a later point in the meeting, then you need a motion on that. So I guess the issue was there was a motion that was decided, but we didn't have any second on it.
Right.
So I think if you have it decided or discussed at the appropriate portion of the meeting, that's probably the best place to do it. Right?
So we don't need a motion for that.
You don't need a motion at this point. When we are discussing it at the whatever, new business, old business, however you want to characterize it, because maybe it's old business because it came up in the past, I don't know. But either way, that would be the appropriate time to discuss it.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other board comments?
First comment on the safety-related information. This is actually a subject that the Community Relations Committee is already working on. Rather than putting it in individual emails onto public listservs, the plan is to actually establish a section on the Board of Education website where it will be a repository for all the official documents that the public should have access to. We are working on that, and there will be more information on that as we progress. Secondly, I would like to invite the public and my colleagues on the Board of Education to the upcoming Oktoberfest. This year we are celebrating the 20th anniversary, and the funds raised at Oktoberfest actually come right back to our school district. The funds raised at Oktoberfest fund the weekend snack pack program here at ACS, as well as the George Washington and the Eleanor and Gelder elementary schools in Edgewater. So if you're interested in attending, there are 2 advanced sales locations in town. You can also go to our website, leoniaoktoberfest.com, or shamelessly, I have tickets with me. See me after the meeting. If you purchase advanced tickets, you save $5 on the admission. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board comments? All right. So I have a few comments to make. Hopefully the microphone's working. All right. So the first is International Peace Day is going to be on September 22nd. It's Leonia's 17th annual International Day of Peace. It will be held at the Leonia United Methodist Church on their lawn from 5 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. And I just want to thank the Leonia Vigil Group for Peace and Justice in partnership with local peace, justice, and environmental organizations for holding this wonderful event. As the theme is going to be Climate Action for Peace, the board has been invited to showcase some of the wonderful green initiatives we've been doing. And we will have one of our propane buses, hopefully, parked there for the town to come see. They are reducing emissions and reducing costs on our buses. On October 19th, the town will be hosting Leonia Celebrates in honor of 4 round number local milestones. It's the 125th year of Leonia as an incorporated borough, the 100th year of Leonia's Players Guild, which is the oldest in New Jersey. It's the 100th year of the American Legion Post No. 1, and it's the 50th year to date since the current public library building was opened. So they will be celebrating that, and there will be several festivities, a bus tour, which is a historical tour of Leonia. There will be food available, and it will be a wonderful event. So we thank the town for that. I want to just, on some agenda items, I wanted to thank the Home and School Association for the very generous donation that we'll be voting on shortly. I want to thank the members of the Long Range Strategic Planning Committee for their wonderful work in putting together this first Long Range Strategic Plan that we'll be voting on as a board, and of course Superintendent Bertolini and our Business Administrator Tina Pollock. And I also want to thank our negotiations committee for working on this teacher's contract to have it a year ahead of schedule. I think it's truly a wonderful feat, so I applaud everybody on the committee for that. Regarding the community calendar, I was asked by a member of the public who frequently comes to our meetings just to share her sentiment, and her email will be forwarded to everybody, that she was disappointed that the calendar was not sent to everybody, and hopes that the board and the town can work together, and she wanted me to share that comment with everyone here. So that's all my comments. Any other comments? All right. Moving right along to approve the minutes as amended with a spelling mistake. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Noreen, second. Michael, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's good. All right. You don't have to. So there's 3 abstentions. So Ms. Klein, Ms. Thompson, and Mr. Wimmer. All right. Next, we'll move on to administrative reports. The first will be the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Just some quick information as we start the school year. Our numbers are up, not only in the middle school and the high school, but also in the elementary school. For the first time, and those obviously just Leonia residents and no Edgewater students in our elementary school. For the first time ever, our elementary school ACS is over 700. It broke that somewhere late August. We're now at 720 students in the elementary school. Middle school has 516 students. And when you count the evergreen students in high school, we're at 802, which is the first time we went over 800. So we're growing. We continue to grow in all 3 schools. Fortunately, we are fully staffed at this point, so we're looking into the school year with great hope and opportunity. We have 3 back-to-school nights. The elementary school, the high school, and the middle school all have their back-to-school nights on a Thursday evening. The first one is this Thursday for the high school, then the middle school, and then finally at ACS. We start this year with 2 new conservatories, 2 new academy programs, the Music Conservatory and the Fine Arts Conservatory, and one of our computer labs in the library media center has been converted to a piano lab. So it's still under construction. They're using the classroom, but it's not the way we want to show it all. But when we do, then you'll see it's a great opportunity for our music students. And the only other point is that most of the stuff that we've been talking about are in the reports by the committee, so that'll be it.
Okay. All right, next will be the business administrator's report.
I don't have a microphone. Can everybody hear me?
Here.
Oh, good. All right. So far this year, we have verified all staff salaries with the contracts that have been dispersed out to personnel to make sure that all of the salaries match, so that we can reduce the errors. Is something that we talked about in the last school year. We've created actual payroll files so that any changes that happen for each person, we have a record. There were some things, if you remember, that got missed, so this way every person has their own files and makes it easier to make sure that we don't have mistakes moving forward. Established active communication with the association president so that when there's issues that come up, we talk to him in advance so that we can avoid problems. I'm really working on a communication. I also have a running business office study team meeting schedule that's been established for the entire year, so we can look at where costs are, because as we all know, special needs students were mandated to provide services, and we want to provide them with the best education, but it can be costly, and this way we can have an ongoing communication with that, because we can follow the funds and stay within budget. And we have our child nutrition program agreement packet has been approved for the school year, and we are going through the free and reduced lunch applications. And we were also notified we will be having an administrative review this year, so we're preparing for that one. They go through all of our paperwork for nutrition program and make sure that the applications for free and reduced, they're correct, we follow all the procedures. So it's it's our turn. Yeah. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to the committee reports. We'll start with education. Sarah, can you go first?
No, we will, be reconvening shortly, setting our goals.
Summer session.
Yeah, right. We're going to revisit some ideas in the realm of restorative justice or certain techniques of how they apply, and then some other things.
Yeah.
Just 2 points on that. One, our 2 principals, the middle school principal and the high school principal, went to a 2-day workshop down in Princeton area for restorative justice. So they got some training there. And also this Friday, we have our summer reading chat. Hopefully the boys have done their summer reading. So each child picks a book. There's over 100 books to choose from. The teacher owns the book. I have a book myself. And we talk to the students to make sure they read the book and go into some analysis of the book. So each teacher gets 12 students, and it's a great way of continuing reading during the summer, but also not having a test where they just get a longer right answer. It's a discussion, and it's 2 hours on Friday. That's this Friday in high school.
Finance and operations.
Yes. While we had no formal meeting during the summer, both before and after the summer sojourn, we've discussed a number of issues that are still on our plate. St. John's, we will be addressing field turf, the consequences of the increased enrollment numbers, both from Edgewater and from Leonia, that we are seeing, and the impact it has on the tuition formula, and making slow progress of getting answers from the state of how the tuition formula is actually translated into real dollars. There's still some mystery about it, but I'm hopeful that I'm getting closer to a definitive answer of how the building use charge is actually translated into tuition dollars. And we'll be setting up meeting dates for the rest of this year before the new board is seated in January.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Community relations and communication.
Yes, just 2 quick things. So 2 things. So first, one of the goals of our committee, which we mentioned back in June, I think, is that we want to make sure we have board coverage at a lot of our important community events. So some of upcoming events were mentioned during the comments, but all of you, fellow board members, should have in your inbox a Google form to fill out. That form has all of the upcoming September events. It's really quick. All you need to do is go through and answer yes or no, whether or not you're attending, and then we'll have an idea if we're missing anything. So it has Oktoberfest, National Peace Day, the Back to School Night, etc. So hopefully we'll do that for every single month and make sure we have at least 1 person attending. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, to piggyback what Roland said earlier, and also Carol's point, one of our other goals is to make sure that we put more information on our Board of Education website. So we did add 2 new tabs to the website. The first is Board Goals, which we've put in our most recent goals. There's 5 of them. So that's already up there. And then the second tab is Board Initiatives. So hopefully after this meeting, we can set up a committee meeting where we can start populating that document, but it's all ready to go. It's just a matter of adding the content. So that is where we would put kind of safety and security initiatives that we're able to share. That's kind of public. So that's it.
Okay, great. All right, for long-term strategic plan or long-range facility plan.
The plan is the long-range facility plan.
Got it.
Yes.
The name.
We'll get it working.
We're close there.
All right, so regarding the turf field, we went with our engineers. They gave us several drawings, going through the realities of each one. We're going to be meeting with them on Thursday, hopefully finalizing cost proposal, and hopefully the mayor will be at this meeting, along with other key people on that. But it's looking good. Some not so great news is that during our first meeting with engineers, we went over St. John's and the likelihood of renovating there. The estimated cost was $5 million, and that we wouldn't be owning the building. While we're still in negotiations, at that price point, it just does not look feasible. So we're still moving, but slower and not necessarily looking good on that. Yeah, there are many other options that we would have to explore, of course, if it didn't. Just because of the growing population at ACS. All right, and that's really all for that. School safety?
Yep. Our committee had a short meeting just before this meeting, just to talk about what's going to happen. Nothing really is changing that much except for training. I know that Kevin Woods and his team have almost finished installing all the cameras in all 3 school buildings and around the outside of the school building. I think they're probably going to be doing some tests and things, make sure everything's live. But the cameras are going to be very, very effective. Hopefully all the kids will remember that there's cameras there before they try to do something. They'll know they'll be seen now. Not inside bathrooms, of course, and not inside classrooms, hallways, public areas like gyms and library and that kind of thing. Not in classrooms and bathrooms.
Just to add on to the security, just to address a small, rumor that seemed to have started to spread, just to make it very clear that if there was ever any conversation again regarding Class 3 officers, that there would be extensive public notification and that the board never has any intention to just simply drop a policy change like that, just to clarify, because I know that there were some people out there who were talking about it.
I wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah, no one would let that happen. Okay, yeah, just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I pretty much addressed pre-K already, so we'll just go right to negotiations. Mr. Sun?
The committee met with the Leonia Education Committee, and we believe we have a fair and equitable meeting of the minds that takes into account the education of the students, as well as the economic situation of our teachers. I believe the Education Association had reasonable goals, and there was good give and take. And we hopefully will be voting on a memorandum of agreement this evening, as well as a salary guide. So I can only tell you we entered into it in good faith. We were met with good faith on the other side. And I think this is probably one of the earliest times we believe we have an agreement prior to the end of the contract. And that bodes well for us because our teachers can concentrate on teaching and our students can concentrate on learning. And the taxpayers of Leonia can be assured that we had their interests at heart when we made the negotiation.
And it really is wonderful. It's a year ahead. So great job to the committee and to our superintendent. That is really something to be applauded. All right, so for our new student representatives, at this point, at the end of our committee reports, we typically ask the students to provide any feedback that they might have, or reports that they might have. Of course, it's your first day, so if you don't, that's fine. But if you do, please.
Yeah. Well, as aforementioned by Ms. Albanese, I can attest that security officers in the school are doing a very good job. I know a lot of my peers think that it's a very good idea and that they do feel a lot safer, so I would like to applaud that going through. However, I do think that if there was anything to augment in that sector, it would be to have more of them, because I personally know, or I see only a few of them walking around. I'm actually close to them. Like they talk to the students, they help them with more than just security. Like they actually make them feel safe by, forming a connection with them, more than just like being there. Like they actually speak to the students, so the students feel like they can actually trust these people, right? But I see the same couple of faces. I think that if there were more security officers, that would be even better for the school and for the students.
I have a question. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Of course.
So I heard there are like special smoke detectors in the new wing bathroom.
Not correct.
Not correct. So I think well that's like a rumor that's like spread throughout the school for like vaping purposes.
Maybe that's a good rumor. maybe keep that rumor going.
So a lot of people are like scared to do it in to vape.
Even better.
I think it would be something to like look into.
They're very costly.
To be honest with you, I've looked into it personally. It obviously is a big problem that the younger generation is facing. Right now, the technology is not quite there. There's often false alarms, and they're incredibly expensive just to give you mostly false alarms. Of course, we should keep up to date on the technology, but keep that rumor going. Don't Hold on. All right, yeah. That's good. Do you guys have anything else? Okay, great. All right, we'll move right along to education. And I believe we can move everything as stated. Is there a motion? Mr. Khan, is there a second? Mr. Phelan? Roll call, please.
This is A.
Yeah, this is 10A to 10G.
All right, so if we're doing it together, then we'll just
You don't say CF, didn't you just?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and just have to abstain. Just making sure.
We're doing 10A to 10G with Mr. Sandy Klein not voting on 10F and 10G.
Yes, perfect.
Okay?
All right, roll call, please.
I gotcha. Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
All right.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandy Klein? As stated with abstention. Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Motion carries. My apologies, Mr. Thompson.
All right, next we'll move on to finance, and again, we can move it as written. Is there a motion on the table? Is there a motion? And I'll go with Noreen, and then is there a second? Anthony? Great. Any discussion? Yes. Mr. Wong?
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to point out to the public what we are voting on. Amongst other things, we are voting on special education student funding that we are mandated by law to finance, although we have no control over it. This is to the tune of $60,000 per student that we have to place in special educational circumstances because of their needs. My comment is not about the needs of the children, but of the unfair burden this puts on local taxpayers when the state does not adequately fund special education. There are proposals making their way through the state legislature, but the public in general is unaware and uninterested. Tonight we're voting on $350,000 of our taxpayers' money that we have to pay on out-of-district placement without any support by the state. That should not be the case. The state has an obligation to take over part of that burden on school districts. It becomes even worse when during a school year a family moves into town with a special needs child. We have an obligation to educate that child regardless of the cost and regardless of the ability of the taxpayer to finance it. Again, this is not a fair burden sharing between local communities and the state. And we should, as communities, as Board of Education, have our voices heard to change that. But that can only happen if the public becomes aware of it, contacts their elected officials, and demands that a fairer solution to the special education funding be found. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion on the finance items? I do want to just, there's one finance item I want to comment on. Regarding Machias, I did want to say that they've been working really well with our wellness committee to improve the quality of their service, and I commend them for that. Other than that, is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandy Klein, except for ACS? Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson? Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next we'll be moving on to new business. You want to go over this?
The only item that's not listed in the agenda is the hiring of our second SSO at the elementary school. We had a resignation late August, and we were able to find a very certified replacement on the team with the former police chief in Cliffside Park. He's getting fingerprinted, and he'll come aboard once we have his fingerprints. At that point, we're going to have our other SSOs covered for him until then.
What about the conference?
That's actually here already too. It's in the agenda too, and on the new business. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. There's a second one on the new business for Jim Lee, who's our math supervisor, Greg Van Ness, who's director of instruction and curriculum, to attend the mathematics regional conference. Greg was intentionally going to go somewhere else, could not make it that time. It's very important that one of our goals is math, enhancement of math on that program. And certainly Jen, as our math supervisor, Greg in charge of curriculum and instruction, it's important for them to go. We had budgeted $4,000 for the 2 workshops, and this is going to cost us less than $3. It's budget item. Again, that's one of the 3 goals this year is to continue our math improvement, so this is important for them to go.
Okay, and then the rest would be as written, right? Is there a motion on the table? Somebody? Julie, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Albanese? All right, any discussion? Any discussion? Okay.
This is 12A, 12B, and
Yep.
16S?
Yes, this is everything under the yes. All right, seeing none, roll call please.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano? Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Yes. Wait.
Oh, wait. Let me just make thank you for reminding me. So for 12A, the memorandum of... So anybody with any connection to the NJEA, relatives, family members, their profession is in the schools, public schools, you cannot vote on the memorandum of agreement.
Mr. Chairman, then I would suggest you
So we can
do
pull,
that
yeah.
separately.
Yeah, yes.
If you like, I will move it now off the agenda, and I'll move resolution 12A-19. For those who are unable to vote for it, may choose to abstain.
Right.
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Weimer? All right.
We'll be voting on it.
So now we're just voting on the
12A.
12A. Yeah.
Oh, just 12A, okay, voting just on 12A right now.
Okay.
Just on the memorandum of agreement.
Is there any discussion on that? All right.
I'm sorry. On the...
Yes, point to where yes. All right, tonight.
As far as I know, there's only 3 people.
Ms. Klein can't vote,
I
as
can't.
well
Yeah.
as Mr. Rollins.
So just after you abstain. All right.
Okay, so we did an amended motion by Mr. Casano, seconded by Lisa,
Mr.
Mr. Weimer. And this is a vote for 12A only.
Yes. Correct.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Abstain.
Mrs. Sandy Klein? Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Abstain.
Dr. Schuler?
Yeah.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Abstain.
Great.
We still got it.
Mr. President, I would suggest and recommend that since there are 2 items are conjoined, that we also move negotiations not 0910-12B-19 at this point, because the same people would be ineligible to vote.
No, I can vote for that.
No.
12B-19.
No, we can vote
Just
yeah.
workshop, yeah.
It's only negotiation.
Yeah, it's
This
just
is going
a
to a
contract.
workshop.
No. Wait a minute. You have two.
Wait, there's 212, hold on a minute.
Yes.
This is very confusing. There's
So I think we should first vote on
Wait a minute.
You have 2 12Bs.
There's 212Bs.
12B-19.
Sorry.
12B-19.
Okay, so let's vote on these.
So you have to rename it.
Yeah, so let's vote first on 12B-19, which is the workshop for Jim Lee and Greg Van Ness. And also vote for the approval of the appointment of Don McDonald, who is 16 S19. Those are the first 2 we're going to vote on. The new business.
So we usually go personnel after.
Okay.
The rest?
Let's just vote then for 12B-19, which is the recommendation to approve expenses for Jim Lee.
Okay.
And Greg
And then
Van Ness.
and then the other one will be the 13.
This will be 12B-19, page 8.
Okay.
Okay, all right, great. So
Right now, we're voting on the approved expenses for the MAP regional conference for Jin Lee and Greg Van Ness.
Is there a motion on the table? Ms. Klein, is there a second? All right, Ms. Lisa Klein? All right, is there any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, roll call please.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandy Klein? Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. I believe I'm public comment.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to address that new business issue?
Wait, are we doing
Oh, yes, let's address my, thank you for Mr. Phelan's new business issue.
Wait, are we voting on the other thing?
No, that was my first.
That's personnel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Contracts after the
Got it, okay.
So did you want, someone I think wanted me to comment on
Sandy.
that issue, right? The emails?
Yes.
All right, so you have Board of Ed emails, correct?
Yes.
All right, so this is my recommendation. You should use those Board of Ed emails as often as possible, and I would just say exclusively and not use your personal email. Under Oprah, it's not the email address, it's not how it was sent, it's the content of the email. If the email is about board business, it's potentially a government record, which makes it difficult for us to know whether it's being maintained if people are utilizing it on their personal account. So my recommendation is always do it on your Leonia school's email. In terms of communicating with multiple people, you can send out an email to everybody, but the reason why we discourage that most of the time is that if people start going back and forth, then you're having like a quasi-meeting. So that's why we discourage that. I mean, some districts will say something like, I'm sending this out for informational purposes only, please do not reply all, we're not going to have a discussion about it until the board meeting.
Every time I send out anything, it says that.
That's fine, you can do that.
And every time I visit you guys, it's only 3 at a time. So.
Well, you can send it to everyone, just as long as they don't, as long as we're all not having the discussions about it. We have to save the discussions for the meeting.
If a member of the public were to email all of us, as long as we don't reply as a bed.
Right, yeah.
As long as we don't reply all.
Yeah, exactly.
Ms. Klein?
The point of clarity that I wanted to ask you is, we should not be communicating externally because of the chain of command, correct?
Well, so yeah, in terms of the board member code of ethics, generally speaking, if there are complaints that are raised to a board member, the obligation is to report to the superintendent who is going to handle it. That doesn't mean that you can never provide information to people who ask just for basic, simple information, but if it's a complaint, we're not handling the complaints. And in terms of making official board statements, just remember that if there's an official statement we're making on something, the board has to approve that, as opposed to individual members. There are provisions that allow individual members to, like write a letter to the editor or whatever, but there are specific things you need to do. You have to identify yourself as a board member, say that this is not authorized by the board, it's not the board's opinion, it's my personal opinion, et cetera, et cetera. So you should be mindful of that with the communication. That's all. But yeah, I would recommend that everyone use the emails, and I can tell you from personal experience in having to represent another district where an open request was made, and I had to get everyone's personal emails that I had to read through that I really didn't want to find out which one of those things were responsive to the open request. I learned all sorts of things I didn't want to know. So don't do it.
I was just going to say, so I think we can just, like, Uzma can just put up the emails. I don't think we need to motion it. That's,
Yeah, okay.
like, I don't think we
just post.
Yeah, we
we
just
talked about it a
post.
few times.
Is anyone opposed to having the emails?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I don't know that we all discussed that at one meeting.
Is there anybody opposed? I mean, I don't see any issue with more.
Point of clarification, Mr. President.
Yes.
We're going to post our Leonia Board of Ed.
Yes, not your personal email, your Board of Education.
Prominent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess right now, okay. So, if there's no objection to that, I think we can just do it. I don't think we really need to vote on it.
Yeah, so you always formally vote.
Yeah.
And typically, they will tell you that there are different boards that we represent. So some boards will have everyone's email individually. Some boards will say, if you want to email the board, you can click on this button, and it will send an email to all of the board members. And there's different ways that you can do it, but you can accomplish it by...
That might be a better way. So everybody can use one.
Well, this way nothing slips through the cracks either.
Yeah.
If something gets sent to one board member and they may not have checked their email, then it's sent to all board members.
That might be a better.
But we are elected officials, so our constituency should be able to communicate with any one of us.
Of course.
If they so choose.
Of course.
I make the habit that when I receive an email to my personal email address, that I respond to that email and copy my Board of Ed email. This way I create an official record that is on the board system. It is also backed up on the board system as a consequence. It just requires that we as board members are disciplined and aware of what the requirements of opera are.
Absolutely.
Right? That's why they're elected us, because they trust that we can figure that out.
Hopefully.
Just today we had someone email me, you, Swile. I presumably, because that student they chose the email, where they wouldn't be allowed to do that.
If you set it up that way. But you can also have what I've usually seen is everyone's individual email addresses, then there's a button you can push to just email all of them.
To do both.
Yeah. I think we can just do that. I don't think it. Points are all we'll take. I think all emails should be displayed.
Before we promise something to the public, the website has to support it.
Yeah,
then you have to integrate the mail function onto that page, rather than just listing out email. So, that caveat.
Yeah. In the immediate, the very least we can do is just put the email. Yeah. Someone can copy and paste it. Hopefully, our tech department can make a plan. That's my.
I have done it. It's not done.
Okay.
All right. I asked, was it also like apps and text messages and everything in that case you talked about, or just the phones?
It does not. I'm going to say the following. It does not distinguish between the mode of communication. So, which is why I say all of the communications about the Board of Ed stuff should be through the Board of Ed.
Absolutely.
I think anyone responding should have to be right.
But typically, I only know what I can CC on, but a lot of ones you all CC me on, so I think everyone is doing those.
You just need to make sure that, if it's something like, hey, when is this board meeting? Doesn't matter. Right? If it's, I have this
They're not
concern.
getting emails.
Right. If it's, I have this concern about X, you should make sure the board president and superintendent know, and probably the business administrator as well, depending upon the nature. But, keep the superintendent in the loop, of course.
Great. Thank you. All right, let's, is there a motion to move us now into public comment? Questions, concerns, or queries? Motion. Mr. Chandler, is there a second? Ms. Klein? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. We are now in public comment. If you wish, please come up to the lectern, state your name and address. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Call tomorrow for you, Richard. For money, I would suggest to speak to Toms River, Jackson, Brick, Ocean School District, and Monmouth County about extraordinary aid.
Extraordinary.
Yes.
Okay.
We do receive that.
You do know about the lawsuit, right?
We do receive extraordinary.
Yes.
No, I know, but you guys are missing the adequacy formula. Nobody has it. Nobody has that formula. So I'm just saying that's the people you may want to speak to, because somehow over the summer money started appearing for extraordinary aid to certain school districts, especially areas that were questioning the adequacy formula, because they're suing because they don't have that. Nobody has it. That's why there's no understanding about why certain school districts receive more money than other school districts. When it comes to the extraordinary aid, it's just not clear. So I'm just telling you, speak to those districts.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who wish to speak? You can just stand up for Mr. Zion. Yeah, sure.
I have several things.
No problem.
Hi, just a quick question. It looks like on your, Wendy Lindsay, 134 Rellies. In the closed session, it says, one of the things is discussion of shared services agreement with Borough for food dehydrator.
That's correct.
Wondering what that is.
Well, I mean, there's another board discussion, so we'll mention that. I can tell you what it is in board comment. It's not appropriate during public comment.
Okay.
But I will take it.
Okay.
There's another.
Okay, thank you.
Art is 125 Road. First thing is, anyone know how Artie's doing? You heard from Artie?
Yep.
I am.
Doing okay?
He's doing well.
Bryce, earlier you referred to, when you were talking about the turf, you referred to our engineers.
Yes, land associates. They're
Okay, not the engineers of the proposed vendor.
No.
Just wanted to clarify that. I don't have any opinion on the vendor. I know there's discussion for all the time out personally. I'm for the field. About that, but I'm not. I want to make sure you're.
They're completely independent.
Next one is, are your goals online on the website?
They should. Well, I don't know if they're online. I could send it to you. They're in a packet though. They're in the board red packet.
Okay, I don't have a packet, but if they're online, I'll look them up if they're not.
There's three of them listed on the agenda. Did you see the three? They're listed.
Oh, I was using the one that was emailed out. I was using. Okay, then I'll just take I'll take the time that you have there. Roland, does anybody, previously on one of those searches, a resident came up with an analysis about the cost of tuition for out-of-state, out-of-town Edward students, and they came up with some number, like, I'm making this up, but I think it was around $25,000. You probably read it. As opposed to the $17,000 that we're paying. Has anybody looked into that to validate that that might actually be the cost? And that will be, according to the formula, the state formula, that's the amount of differential that we're getting screwed per student? Or have you looked into it and said, those are wrong numbers and it's not that bad?
The 25,000 is the wrong number.
That's but I'll respond to the board comment.
Okay. I'll wait. Or I'll come back. Data security, do you have data security, files, computer files, records, everything you keep on your computer? Do you have off-computer, off-network storage of critical files in the event you're hacked, locked up, or somebody comes in there and what do they call it? They ask for some ransomware comes in?
I'll adjust that, but we do.
Okay.
I'll adjust it during board comment, but we do.
Okay, I'll ask for that also.
Yeah, no.
On St. John's, you mentioned Bryce on St. John's was costing $5 million to renovate it to be usable. Do you know how many square feet you were talking about doing, and do you know what the cost per square foot was?
It's 48,000 square feet.
48,000 square feet. Oh, pretty big area. Okay. I was going to talk about vaping, but you mentioned that they were going to suggest putting smoke detectors in there that are not tied to your security system, that are separate, that bring directly in the principal's office, so that if you know something's going on, it doesn't send everybody out, you're not an alarm. You just send somebody down to check it out. And you can do it wirelessly, and it's not that expensive if you want to go that route. I'm not sure if you... Sooner or later, they're going to ratchet all out, and everybody's going to know that those aren't smoke detectors.
We don't know for sure.
And that is it. I'll just have to wait for the next session. Thank you.
Hi, Robin Flattis, 212, Robin Flattis North, 212, Warwick Lane, Leonia. Still praise. I like the community calendar. I see both sides. I understand people are upset that they weren't mailed. I appreciate that. Like, I didn't need to get a hard copy. I like the hard copy, but I appreciate the paper saving aspect and the money saving aspect. I also understand why certain people are upset because there are residents that don't look online. But I do think it was done well because there was certainly enough places around town to pick one up if you couldn't, and for those who weren't on the listserv and didn't get all this. I mean, I have an elderly neighbor. I talked to her. I can pick one up for her if she wants. So I actually thought that was a good idea. The rest of me, this is just confusion, clarification. Roland, you mentioned Community Relations Committee, and it should be published the safety stuff. That's on the BOE website? Is that what that be? Community Relations Committee will be under the Board of Education website? Is that what that goes?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's actually a tab.
It'll be attached.
Sorry.
Okay.
And just to clarify, because I know people are interested in restorative justice, Dr. Bertolini, you mentioned that 2 people went to a seminar in Princeton for restorative justice. Did you say they were vice principals?
The 2 principals, the middle school, Mr. Sacco and Mr. Calhoun, high school principal.
Oh, so middle school and high school
Both went for 2 days, that's
okay,
correct.
great. The third one was the $5 million for 48,000 square feet. Were we just putting pre-K in there? Yeah?
It's a problem.
It was going to be pre-K and our Alpha program.
I don't know what that is.
Adults with autism and disabilities. 18
Okay.
Wow. Well, I'll address during board comment, but...
Oh, okay. Because that 5 minutes was like be getting the whole building for that amount.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was just for like 5 pre-K classes, like on 1 floor. my daughter goes to CCD there. I mean, I've been in that place. One area. That kind of thing. So she's in 4th grade right now, and so is there a chance she's going to the middle school next year, or are we kind of in a holding pattern, or do you think a decision will be made this year on whether or not the 5th graders, this year's 4th graders will have to go to LMS next year? That's what I'm wondering.
For many reasons, at this point, there's no thought about moving to 5th grade next year.
Okay, thank you.
At this point.
Okay. So I might be walking down the road next year. It's possible.
I'm pretty certain that will not occur next year. There's a lot of things that have to be placed.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of moving pieces. And you mentioned cameras in hallways. Is that in all the schools?
Yes.
So
And exterior cameras.
It's not
Not complete, it's almost complete.
But that's the plan, cameras in the hallways and like in the playground and whatnot.
Exterior cameras. And they're like wide view coverage and they're really sharp and clear.
I know the monitors in like the principal's office or the police station.
Security room.
Security room. Okay.
We still do have access to them.
Yeah, they have.
They're also on our phones.
We have a memorandum of agreement with the police that they can access the cameras, but there's certain, I don't have it in front of me, but
There are restrictions.
There's restrictions behind
Yeah,
that.
no, I can imagine, yeah.
The kids go on if they're bored.
The cameras are much more high-tech than they have been.
What are they wearing today?
The cameras are also they'll be on our phones now, too.
Faculty.
No, administrators.
Administrators only. And is it faculty that has, isn't that LiveSafe or LiveSafe?
The panic button.
Rave.
We use Rave. Have you heard of LiveSafe or LiveSafe?
That's something
best.
they're still working on that.
Yeah.
I think
There's other systems. The panic button is the quickest one in my mind.
Okay, because I was just at a press conference on Friday. Congressman Gottheimer and one of the freeholders was there, and she had mentioned it, that Bergen County provides those for free. And I didn't know if that was...
Not at this point.
What the teachers... That's what they told me.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dylan.
And the mapping.
We have free mapping.
But so these are the teachers' panic funds. They're like lined up in the hallway. Kids maximum.
It's on the phone.
You're on the phone.
Teachers' faculty funds. Okay. That's just my confusion. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other? Mr. Miles?
Just very quickly, Vito Madison, 430 Dragon Terrace. I just want to give kudos to the board. I have 2 children in ACS this year for the first time, though I've spent most of my life in Leonia. I just want to say how relieved and excited I was to have my children in the district, and commend the board not just for the work we're doing tonight, but what's been done in the previous years to lead up to the state of the district. So you have my gratitude. And I appreciate the measures of transparency and disclosures. Roland, I appreciate that every opportunity, and the board in general, that you're able to and willing to explain some of the processes so that people have a greater sense of understanding. It's going to be intimidating. And so that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? No?
Mr. President,
Is there a second on that motion? Ms. Schuler? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, so moving on to board comments. So just to address some of the things that took place during public comment, I'll go in order. With regard to cyber security, we call it. So we do back up our data. So in the hopefully unlikely event, although it seems to be becoming more and more likely that there is some type of ransomware attempt at the data in our school district, it is backed up. That backup data is on site. I know some school districts do it off-site. There's arguments that it's more secure, but it's also increasingly more expensive to keep it off-site, because typically you would keep it with like a company that would host it for you. Like Amazon has servers that they would, lease you, I guess, data space on. I'm not an expert in it, but we do store our data on the site as backup. Regarding the calendars, what I can say is that I dropped off some of the calendars at the library, and by the next week they had already asked for more. And the library alone gave out 700, so it seems that they were doing very well there. And regarding St. John's, the $5 million was just to bring it up to the basic code. That doesn't include any technology in the classrooms, books in the classrooms, the real stuff that makes a school a school. This was just to bring it up to the basic code for DOE approval. One of the main concerns is there's no bathrooms in the classrooms, the room sizes were too small. Egress, elevators, there was just for, electric, right? They said that if they had added another window unit, they might have blown a circuit in the whole building, so they were very concerned about that. But negotiations will continue, and the Archdiocese is speaking with their architects to see maybe if there's something that ours missed. But that's the unfortunate state as it is right now. We did get a very nice report, though, and I guess the cheapest report, because it saves us, hopefully, from going down a rabbit hole. But that's the unfortunate state of affairs with regards to that. And if it changes, absolutely make the public aware, because that is the only real idea that added square footage for our district that is so desperately needed as Leonia continues to grow. All right. Are there any other board comments at the moment?
Food dehydrator, you guys know what that is?
Oh, yes, thank you. So we'll be discussing that in close tonight, but Mr. Monzat presented it at a previous board meeting. Essentially, our green team has been looking into ways to really improve so that we can continue to get points for green initiatives. So, for example, the styrofoam, the recycling, the milk cartons, thank you, the propane buses, we've gotten points for those things, and they give you different status. But the food dehydrator, essentially you put in your lunch, some of those trays, things like that, and it actually turns it into this really cool dirt-like material that you can just use in your garden.
So this is like the giant compost station.
It's much more advanced than a compost. Oh yeah, it turns 250 pounds of waste into like 20 pounds of this dirt-looking stuff. It's really we would be the first in the state to have one. It's really very cool. And we're still in negotiations with the town on that. So we'll be discussing that in close tonight. But it is really a wonderful piece of technology that I think would make our district even greener. So never a bad thing. All right, that's all I have for my board comments. Mr. Weimer? Yes.
I have a couple of items that I would like to respond to. With regard to the security cameras, we should all be conscious of the fact that there are no single safety measures. All of the safety measures that we have taken, and that goes to Carol's point of maybe we should publish a list of all the different initiatives that we have undertaken. But all of them have to be part of a comprehensive safety plan. So the cameras are not just cameras. They are part of the safety system and the response system should anything happen in school. And the different types of events that can happen in school require different responses. So all these elements interact, and it's not just an individual item, even as we go and implement them step by step. With regard to St. John's, I believe it's a fair statement to say that all of our collective jaws dropped when we received the report, for which the taxpayers of Leonia spent good money. My point on this, where we were trying to rent a building that until very recently operated as a school in the state of New Jersey, and to convert that building into a functioning pre-K and Alpha program building should not cost $5 million. This is what happens when we ask the government constantly to increase specifications, regulations, and requirements. All kinds of things that look good and may be necessary or maybe not. But when you look at that building and you tell me that we have to spend $5 million to bring it up to code, when we just spent $7 million to build a brand new building, something is wrong. Something is wrong with the school construction requirements for existing buildings. It should not cost $5 million to bring that building up to code. Finally, Arthur, on the school tuition formula. This is not the school funding formula, and this is where it gets really, really complicated. And I've never ever seen in my entire life anything as complicated as anything that has to do with school funding. So, the $25,000 per student cost is the number that somebody came up with. That is not the tuition that we are charging any out-of-district student to attend or in our send-receive relation. There's also a totally different number of what it costs from our local tax levy to send one child to school. In our current budget, we have, I believe, 25 different sources of funding where we get our money from, only one of which is our local tax levy. So it gets really, really complicated, and unfortunately, when you have discussion with members of the public who are not fully versed in the school funding complexities, all kinds of numbers get thrown out there. That's why I'm reluctant to use numbers here, because if I don't have them right in front of me and can read them to you, I'll probably give you something that is incorrect. The problem that we have with our tuition formula is one that there is a question that is unclear, and that is how the tuition-paying students are charged for the use of our buildings. Within the tuition formula, there is a sub-formula A that calculates a building use charge, and that building use charge for this budget should be $648,444. That number I happen to know exactly. Unfortunately, when you plug that result into the software program that is provided by the state to come up with a budget, that line item zeroes out, which would mean that we receive nothing for the use of our buildings, which would not be fair. I have inquired with the state and dug my way through someone who finally gave us an answer, but the answer is past tense. So now we're trying to reconcile our budget proposal over the last 5 years with the actual certified budgets and reconcile that with the certified tuition budget, which come 2 years after we actually charge for the tuition. So if I mention that this is really complicated, that's what it is. It is my personal belief it is intentionally this complicated, so that things like in Monmouth County can happen, and money miraculously appears that was unavailable only weeks earlier. And only certain school districts receive that money, and other school districts never hear of it or never have a chance of getting that money. But that's my personal opinion. It is my intention to get to the bottom of our tuition formula because it has serious impact on our school district. And once I have a definitive answer, I will certainly make sure that the public is aware of it. However, as I recently answered to a former board president in one of our discussion forums, whether or not Edgewater is paying a fair share is no longer the question. Leonia has its own enrollment growth issues that we have to address. This is the first year where we have over 700 students in this building.
ACS just at 124.
No, 7.
No, I'm sorry, second grade.
Second grade is
124.
So
It ain't Edgewater, it's us.
Right.
We're growing.
We have challenges that we have to face. As Leonia, Edgewater has challenges to face as the Edgewater School District, and we certainly have to face challenges together. And most likely, only together will we be able to find a solution. Again, my personal opinion, we are running out of time and maneuvering room, so the sooner we address this, the better. But as soon as I have definitive answers on the division formula, I promise you out there, because we've been at this for a couple of years, I will let you know.
No, I mean, I just agree that it is impossible to navigate the state. So, no, I commend you on your research for these numbers.
Just as an additional point, I have asked people in Trenton. I actually went to Trenton for a school board's meeting, and I walked around the room and I asked anybody in the room that was willing to talk to me whether they knew anybody who could give me a definitive answer. That it appears to be a lack of a single expert in this state on how the schools are funded.
Yeah. All right. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. I wanted to thank Kevin and Dr. B. The three of us went to Valerie Huddle's office in Englewood to discuss getting funding from the state, from their green bus grant for our propane buses. They sent us back a plethora of information, and they were very well receiving of that information and very, very friendly. So we thank Valerie Huddle's office and Kevin and Dr. B for their time for joining me on that little mission. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make a board comment? Seeing none, I move that we move into closed session. Is there a motion on that? Ms. Lisa Klein, is there a second? Ms. Thompson, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, thank you everybody for coming. Be resolved in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act. The Leonia Board of Education shall conduct closed executive session pursuant to the expectations prescribed in NJSA 10-4-12 for the purpose of discussing personnel matters, contract negotiations, and attorney-client privileges. It is anticipated the length of this executive session will be approximately 40 minutes, and that actions may or may not be taken in public after the executive session. The minutes of this executive session will be released when the need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10-4. We're back in.
Okay, 9:43.
All right.
Approved resolution 091012C-19. The salary guide that we approve it subject to the teachers union signing the proposed contract and confirmation of the School Boards Association of the numbers.
Okay. All right. Is there a second? Second, Sandy. Okay. Roll call. Any discussion? Well, we can't. Right? All right. So just roll call, please. I don't know. I'm just getting used to the thing. Any discussion?
You need always need to say
Always
that.
discussion.
Always
Yeah, I was right.
You always have to say that. Yes.
Good.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Krishnano?
Aye.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Yes.
Wait.
Oh, can I not vote on this part either? Is this part of this?
I don't think both.
Oh, sorry. Abstain, sorry.
Do we need to clarify which number it was? I'm not sure.
So you just did it. Yeah. So just if you're NJA.
091012C-19.
No, I mean, fill in the blank.
Oh, second would be the
Yeah.
second one. That's correct.
Okay.
Guide number 2.
That's true.
And we modified it from 12B-19
Yeah.
to 12C-19 due to duplicate
For
numbers
options.
within the agenda.
All right. So can we roll call it again?
We can.
Okay.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Pisano?
Yes.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Bless you.
Bless you. Mrs. Sandy Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Abstain.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Congratulations to our teachers and to the negotiation.
Thank you, John.
Great job. All right, so next we'll move on to personnel. We'll move on to personnel.
Move everything first.
We're
All right.
pulling 16N.
Pulling 16, that's correct. 16A through
16A through 16S with ACS is 16P, Q, R, and S for Mrs. Sandy Klein's purposes.
Okay. Is there a motion? Mary, is there a second? Maria? Any discussion?
Who moved it?
Mary. Maria seconded.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Oh, so,
I said that just the ACS, which is P, Q, R, and S. Yeah, because it's
primarily for
yeah,
ACS.
it's specific to that school. That was why I noted
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Casano?
Aye.
Mrs. Lisa Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Sandy Klein with the exception? Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Dr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Weimer?
Aye.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I should have done that. Okay. I believe that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? Andy, is there a second? Maria? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We're adjourned.
45. Thank you all.